I had just seen Michael Jackson Friday, so you couldn't tell me life wasn't great. And had a conversation with Mr. C on Monday about it. We sat on the air and talked about how great life was. I had my dream job, my dream city. I saw Michael Jackson. I was in the last row of Madison Square Garden, headache row. As soon as he walked out on the stage, I cried the whole time. I went to work Monday morning and I told the world, anyone that would listen, I could die tomorrow. And look what happened. I will never ever say it again. Never. And I suggest you never ever say that again either. That's just some stuff people say to sound like they had a great day.
All news, all the time. This is 1010 Wins. You give us 22 minutes, we'll give you the world.
Good morning. 64 degrees at 8 o'clock. It's Tuesday, September 11th. I'm Lee Harris. Here's
You know,
what's
at
happening
15, you're just kind of, I don't know, having fun, hanging out with your friends, not really giving a care about anything in the world.
Honestly, the biggest thing that I was concerned about as a 12, 13-year-old was winning all my Harlem Shake battles.
That was one of the greatest summers ever. Hola Jovito and H to the Izzo came out. You know, you're vibing to that. You're anticipating Jay-Z's album that day.
The Yankees were on top. The Yankees were going into the postseason. It's a good time in New York City.
Can you imagine I'm auditioning to be on the air at Hot 97? Michael Jackson's on stage, Jay-Z, and I'm sitting there in the crowd like, what? I could work at the radio station that has Michael Jackson at Summer Jam?
The city was in a stupor because Jay-Z had it on Smash with his single, and we knew that the blueprint was gonna be the shit because it was the shit.
Michael Jordan had announced that he was coming back to the NBA out of retirement and he was going to join the Wizards. So, you know, I had some things on my mind on that train. I was like, okay, as soon as I get out, I'm going to grab the paper. Like this before we had smartphones, so I'm like, man, I got to grab the paper, see what's up with MJ. And I knew during my lunch break I was going to go to Fat Beats to get the blueprint and to get Ghetto Fabulous.
It was the perfect day. Clear blue skies. I don't remember even seeing a cloud outside when I was walking out there.
An extremely beautiful, gorgeous day. It just seemed like a movie.
So I got off the PATH train at Christopher Street at 9:06, which is, you know, it's a time. People are...
This just into our newsroom. A plane has crashed into the World Trade Center. Let's get this live update from 1010 Wins correspondent.
In 2001, I was in 5th grade still, so I was not old enough to understand what was going on, but old enough to be scared.
I heard, I mean, that bang was unforgettable. I heard it. Like, it sounded thunderous. I mean, it was shocking for everybody. It kind of rattled all of us.
I was in Brooklyn in front of my TV in my bedroom, bugging.
Once the plane hit the Pentagon, we are surrounded by 2 Air Force bases, Andrews Air Force and Bowling. So the jets, took off real fast from the airport, and it shook the entire school. So the minute the airplane shook the entire school, everyone in the class just ran out into the hallway, screaming, crying, not knowing what was going on.
It sounded like 2 fighter jets just racing over the roof.
The end of second block was when the second plane hit the tower, and we actually saw it outside of our window at school. The hallways started going crazy, like kids started running through the hallways, they were crying. A lot of students, their parents worked at the World Trade Center or near the World Trade Center.
When I walked into the on-air studio, I could tell it was chaos. My boss, Tracy, was in there. Her assistant was in there. And she looked at me. I'd only known her a week. But she looked at me like she needed help.
And then when you got to your neighbors, it was, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. But you're not grasping it until you're really thinking, wait a minute, that's a whole building of 100 floors.
It really hit us when one of my classmates had his heads down, and we were like, yo, what's wrong? He was like, my mom works at the World Trade Center. And that's when it became real to us because we actually knew somebody that was affected by this.
You know, I took her to the counselor, and I remember her saying and shaking and saying, "My father works there, my father works there, my father works there."
This girl in our class, she got a phone call, and she ran into another room because it was like a big studio type classroom. She went into another room, and then she comes out crying and said she gotta go, grabbed her bag and ran out the room. So we're just looking around like, the call was from her dad, who was actually at the World Trade Center in the tower. So,
you know, people don't realize people live with Hot 97. Do you know what I'm saying? So for them to turn on the box and hear an unfamiliar voice, I was worried. I felt inadequate. I was hoping that, first of all, I could say the things that could calm everyone, relax everyone, but then also give the right information, give updates on how Ange was. You know, eventually she called in to let us know she was okay. People worried about that.
When you go to New York, that's what you know, the Twin Towers. That's all you know. And then everything else falls into place. So now I'm looking at the two biggest buildings that we relate to New York City. One of them is on fire, right? So now we're just like, what, why, and what, and who, and where, and when, and how. And then it just, all this other stuff starts happening. You know, second one gets hit. And like, we're watching this unfold, and it's just like, do you cry? Are you angry? Like, where do you direct this energy to?
Smell was just like...
The smell of burning that came from those towers lasted easily a year and a half, probably longer. You would come down here and you would smell it every day, constant reminder, every day, every day, every day. The smoke went on for at least 6 months. Remember the cloud that I was telling you about was there every day, every day.
The ash is like on your skin. Like, I still remember the feeling. It was literally like a coat of just ash on you. Like, I remember just wanting to be home and take a shower.
I was walking out and things were flying in the air. I didn't know what it was, and I was looking on the ground, and papers from the towers actually flew into Brooklyn, and it was just scattered all around. And
you could see the smoke coming through my section of Brooklyn. You could see debris flying in some cases. You could see papers from the World Trade Center.
I'm an hour away, and I still saw the smoke in the sky from those towers.
When you're like 40 miles away from the city, and you can't see the city 40 miles away from the city, but you can see that smoke plume, and you're like, what the hell is going on?
Right before you hit the tunnel, you can see it. And you see the buildings, and those two huge historic buildings are gone. And you're just like, shit, they really took those buildings down.
All I kept remembering and thinking was, well, where's my dad? When is my dad gonna come home? Like, what's going on with my dad? And at that time, I believe the third plane had hit the Pentagon, and that's only 2 miles away from my dad. So I remember being scared. I remember crying. I remember like just being in the car, like, where's daddy? And he finally called us, but he couldn't come home for 2 weeks.
So I'm standing outside with my friend smoking a cigarette, and here comes my dad running up Hudson Street. So I was like, oh, okay. You know, and he was looking for me. He knew where I worked. The same way I was looking for him, he was looking for me. So he's running up Hudson Street. I met with my dad, and then I ain't gonna lie, I felt like a kid. You know, I'm 21 years old. I'm a grown man, and at work they're saying, yo, stay here, nobody move. And I'm like, nah, I'm going home with my dad. You know what I'm saying? Like, I felt like a kid who got picked up from school.
You know, when you first move here and you get up off the subway, you don't know which way is north. You know, people helping me find my way around. You know, all those stupid stereotypes that people have about New Yorkers. I knew for sure that it was all just a lie. And then 9/11 hit. And like, that's when the true heart, man. You could sit on the train and you could look at somebody and you wouldn't have to say anything. And you knew that you guys are all going through the same mess.
And people were helping each other, like, no matter what kind of race was, it was just a sense of just helping New York City, being proud of New York, and just helping, being part of the U.S. You need help crossing the street, you need help moving your bags. It was just more of that at that time. I think 15 years later, what's whatever going on now in the country, courage has to be the biggest thing.
What made the most impact on me, I think it would have to be the resilience of the country that I live in. you know, music is never gonna go away, and that's cool. So it's gonna be there, and hip hop's never gonna go away. It's a culture, but this country that I live in could have been defeated, and the resilience says, no, we're not gonna be defeated. We're gonna live. We're gonna live strong. We're gonna get better because we recognize the things that could go wrong. So you treat life a little different.